Hey, hello again. Well, I'm out on the Middle Fork Snoqualmie River where it meets the Pratt River, and I'm going to do a little painting of Garfield Mountain. Just a beautiful area to hike around. It's spring, it's mid-April, a little bit of new growth coming along. I've been wanting to get out here and capture the new snow on the mountain, so that's what I'll be focusing on. I want to capture that peak up there, kind of the right hand side of Garfield Mountain, and I'll probably throw in a little bit of the river down below and some of these trees on the riverbank. I'll have to work on the composition. I'll probably go with a portrait orientation, try to capture the height, capture the feel of how tall the mountain is from this viewpoint. So I'm going to work on the perspective and the initial drawing, make sure it feels like I'm looking up at the mountain. I also just love watching these clouds travel across the mountain. That'll be fun, obscuring parts of it. The light in the later afternoon on the mountain is really gorgeous as well, hitting the snow up there. This is facing pretty much east, so the sun will be pretty consistent. It's midday. Going to have a drink of water and take a couple pictures on my iPhone and try to come up with the best composition, what I want to fit on the panel, and get set up and get started. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. These little buggers have thorns all over them. They're just coated with thorn. So you gotta be careful. Don't walk into those, they'll stick you and give you a little splinter that you have to get out later. This is a day tripper by a prolific painter, really high quality, really nice palette box. Going with an abbreviated palette here today. Got ivory black, Rembrandt cold gray, titanium white, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, sap green, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red, cad yellow, and Windsor lemon. So out of my normal colors, I've left out yellow ochre, Gamblin radiant lemon, transparent oxide brown, phthalo blue. I think these colors will capture the scene for me. I've got artist turpentine here. You may have seen in a recent video where I tried doing the initial wash with Gamsol, which works, but I like the effects of the turpentine better than the Gamsol. I don't like breathing the fumes. The fumes can make me a little bit woozy if there's no wind blowing or if I'm indoors. I'm really careful about breathing the turpentine. So as soon as I'm done with the wash, I'll put this up and get the Gamsol out. I've got a little bit of liquid in here and a little bit more Gamsol here. I like to keep this one open so I can dip the brush in it. And that way, you know, if the wind tips the easel over, you don't lose the whole can if you keep the lid on the can. You lose what's in your little cup. I've also got this bungee cord here on the turpentine can, and I set the Gamsol can next to this, so this bungee cord also helps as I'm mixing paint, as I'm bumping the easel around. I'm not going to knock the Turps can off the easel. It's getting a little bit dark here in the shade, so I rigged up my little LED light. Put some light on the palette while I'm mixing, and I'll move it and put it on my panel when I start to paint. It's nice because it just plugs into my battery pack that I bring along for the camera. I'll start by mixing the lightest value first, which is the snow on the mountain. So the snow is getting hit directly by the sun. It's a warm white with just a touch of yellow. So I've got a little bit of the radiant lemon, a little bit of the cad yellow, in the titanium white, and a little bit of liquid. When I mix my paint, I want the consistency to be just about like room temperature butter. That way it'll stick onto my side panel here, but it'll also be nice and creamy. It'll lay down quickly on the panel. If it's colder, I may need to add a little bit of turpentine or Gamsol to keep it looser, or a little more liquid. If it's warmer, a little bit less. The warmth will make the paint a little bit more runny. Now, I'm going to try to keep things a little bit warmer than what I'm actually seeing. I want the whole scene in general to be just a bit warmer. I can cool it down later if I need to. But I find, especially looking at Compton's work, his snow scenes have a beautiful warmth. I think that's a little bit too yellow. I can hold the knife out in the sun and compare it to what I'm seeing. I want it just a bit warmer than the snow. One of my favorite artists from the past, EDGAR PAYNE, he really seems to sculpt with the oil paint. It's not thick and gloopy and out of control. It's just the brush strokes are so well thought out. Kind of like Anders Zorn, and also there's a California impressionist, Hansen Puthoff, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Brilliant painter, beautiful paint, beautiful art. He really seems to sculpt with his paint as well. Again, it's not thick and gloopy and slopped on out of control. It's really well thought out, and it seems to follow the contour of the land. So I'm going to try to practice that today with my brush strokes. I want my brush strokes to be expressive and follow the contours, especially of that mountain up there. So I want to make sure that I leave enough of the panel for the mountain and not worry too much about the foreground. You know, another one of my favorite artists, father and son artists actually, Compton, Edward Theodore Compton and Harrison Compton. I think his first name was Edward as well. Wonderful paintings of mountains around the world. The father, at least Theodore, was a mountain climber. I'm not sure about the son. He did a lot of paintings of the Matterhorn, a lot of paintings of beautiful Alps, mountains. Their brush strokes were really smooth, really refined. One thing I really like about the Compton paintings of mountains, they have a really strong graphic quality. The lines are really simplified and well thought out. So that's the other thing with this scene. I want to try to capture some flair, especially with the outline, the silhouette of the mountain. I don't mind mixing up big piles of paint because I can use this warm white in other mixes that I'll need for the scene, like for the deciduous trees. And I can also take home what I don't use and use it to finish this painting or use it in other paintings. That looks pretty good. I can hold it against the panel as well and get a judge. It's just a little bit warmer than the white of the panel, which I think is perfect. So I'll start over here. I'll set my colors out starting on this side, and I know that I'll work this direction to come forward, and I can also lay things out by value. Arrange my values roughly on the panel. Helps me remember where things are and helps me to compare things. I'm going to set this warm white, a little too warm white over here. Now I'll grab just a touch of alizarin crimson and maybe a touch of red, a little bit of this, a little more white. Looks like my white had a little blue in it. That's okay. That'll get blended up. A little more liquid. And this will be the snow where it turns away from the sun. Still a warmer blend, but that alizarin crimson and that little touch of blue is cooling it off nicely. Compare it to my panel, compare it to the color I mixed. It's okay if it's just a touch darker than that yellow where the sun is on the snow. But I do want a little pile that's a hair lighter as well. So this is also why I'm going to wash, in the initial wash, turpentine wash, I'm going to use alizarin crimson on the mountain. And I may splash in just a little bit of blue. I'm sure some of the blue from the sky will drip down, because those colors I can see in the rocks up there and in the snow. So it'll be nice if I can leave some of that showing. Gorgeous color. Gorgeous color. Okay. Now I'll take this and I'll mix up a little bit of blue for the sky. The sky here in person is vibrant, vibrant phthalo blue. I don't want to paint vibrant phthalo blue with this scene, so I'm just going to go just a touch darker and bluer. For the blue of the sky. I'm actually going to add just a little bit of this yellow, harmonize things a bit, a little bit of alizarin crimson as well. Actually seems a little bit red, so I'm going to add a little more blue, cerulean and ultramarine. A little more white, keep the value up. It's okay if it's not thoroughly blended. It'll look nice if it has some streakiness to it. Let me throw a little bit of that up there. That's the top of the sky. You can see how dark that is now. That's a little too dark. So I'm going to set this aside. Grab more white. Bring the value back up where it needs to be. Quick rundown on the colors I mixed. The snow on the mountain colors here. Here's the lightest light, and I can dip into some pure white as well to lighten it and flatten it even more. I've got a warmer and a cooler pink, very high value, almost as high as that, where the snow on the mountain tilts away from us, and then some blue as the snow tilts away further and as it moves into shadow. Then I've got some sky color here, the deep blue of the sky at the top of the sky. I want to grade that. I want to create a gradient where it's dark blue at the top of the sky and more lighter and yellow at the bottom of the sky to give the impression that we're looking through the atmosphere, that there's a dome of the sky. I've got some colors for the clouds, a little yellow, a little pink, a little purple, high value, almost as bright as the bright white of the snow. And I can dip into the bright white of the snow as well for the clouds, for a highlight on the clouds. Got some rock colors here in the mountain, ranging from warmer and lighter to cooler and deeper. I've got the trees in the foreground here, shadow of the pine, light on the pine, shadow of the deciduous trees, cooler, warmer, and then some light on the pine, highlights on the pine, especially the new growth, and light on the deciduous trees. Here today, I'll use a small bristle brush and a little bit of ultramarine blue to sketch the shape of the mountain. I may add a little bit of alizarin crimson to that to warm it up as it comes down to the base of the mountain. I want this edge to be enveloped in cloud. I want the cloud to be kind of rolling over the edge of the hill here, over the edge of the mountain here. And I want to place the most prominent peak close to this 1/3 line. Maybe just on the inside of that. I want it to have an interesting shape. I don't want this peak to be the same size or the same shape as this peak, so I'm going to maybe de-emphasize this line, which is very close to this line, and give this a little bit of a sweep. This ridge line falls down in a beautiful sweeping way, kind of widens out as it falls. Hits this butte. There's some trees here. Kind of a nice triangle of trees here. Falls again to another tree-covered butte. I don't want this triangle of trees to be the same as this, so I'm going to make this more of a trapezoid, more of a square shape. Now, I'm looking up. I want this to feel like I'm looking up, so there's a vanishing point way up here, so all these lines should kind of radiate out from this vanishing point that's up above. I can make this peak a little smaller and give everything that radiating, vanishing line perspective. This falls off, and I think again I'll make this covered in cloud over here. There's a beautiful, bright, sunny patch of snow here. And these gorgeous lines of rock. Again, I want to keep that radiating feeling. The perspective lines, not all parallel, but definitely I want it to read as radiating from some vanishing point up there. And then a dark line of trees here coming out of the clouds. Down below these falling shoots here, there's a beautiful shadow. I want to make sure I capture one of the deep, darker shadows in the scene. And then over here, I've got falling out of this, where the clouds are coming. There's a gorgeous line coming this way. Gorgeous chute filled with shadow. Coming this way, widening out as it falls. Coming back here, catching some light on the snow. And then coming back this direction. Okay, and then down here will be trees. Now for the trees, I think I do want this one tall pine tree over here, cutting into the sky. then I don't want to cut into that area. That's too beautiful. I'm going to keep on the outskirts of that with another pine. Go right through these green background buttes, pine-covered buttes. Another slightly taller thin pine tree right on this 1/3 line. A slightly shorter one. I'm just kind of looking out at the scene and trying to copy what I'm seeing, but I don't want even spacing. So these three are too evenly spaced. If I put this one further and make this more deciduous trees down here going off the bottom of the panel, I think that'll look nice. I'm changing things up a bit from what I'm seeing in the scene, trying to make it a more interesting composition. Trying to capture the elements I really like. And mostly just trying to add variety. Okay, that's roughly the sketch. Grab this bristle brush for the turpentine wash. Boy, what a gorgeous day. That mountain is so gorgeous up there. It's warm in the sun, but it's chilly in the shade. I do have my heavy coat, so I can throw that on. Now after I have the colors mixed and I get the sketch done, then I'll just go directly into the turpentine wash. I'll wash in some blue for the sky. I'll wipe out some clouds with alizarin crimson. I'll wash in the mountain with a mix of alizarin crimson and burnt sienna. And then I'll wash in some burnt sienna and cad yellow for the trees at the base. I'm not going to catch any of the riverbank on the opposite side. I'd love to, it's gorgeous. The water especially is gorgeous, but that's not really what the painting's about today. The painting is about the beautiful mountain up there. I hope you can see as I'm doing this wash, I'm not staying real rigorous with that initial sketch. That was just to help me get the big shapes placed. Now I'm just responding to what the paint is doing as it drips down the panel, and also looking at the scene, trying to make an abstract pattern with this wash that looks like the scene to me in a light, washy, almost like a light watercolor way. So here now I'm going to go back in and erase out some clouds. I wanted clouds over here, and I'm sorry the panel is bouncing so much. And I wanted some cloud over here cutting into the mountain, erasing part of the mountain. I'm also seeing some neat wispy effects in the clouds here today, so I'm going to add some of that. I want the peaks to be visible and prominent. Thinking about perspective too, the clouds should be coming out toward me. So thinking about that vanishing point, if the vanishing point is in the distance, then these clouds would be radiating as well. So I can help that along by playing with the shapes. As this cloud comes over here, it becomes bigger. These clouds down closer to the mountain are a little smaller. It's not a huge effect because we're looking up so sharply, but I can kind of play with it in this abstract wash and see what looks right. I'm wanting just a little more blue added back in the wash. Maybe I'll have a lighter cloudiness right here next to the dark of the peak, the center of interest peak, this most prominent peak, and then it can kind of fade into more of an abstract look over here. I want to kind of erase those sketch lines. I don't want those really showing through, but I want the general pattern to be there. And this is a really bright area of snow on the mountain, so I want to erase that out. Things fall. This is all kind of falling away. And things are moving from that vanishing point and getting bigger as they go toward the bottom. Wipe my brush out on this rag and erase away the snow. Add just a little bit of this cad yellow and wipe out the snow that's here. It's kind of in a saddle, very steep saddle. There's also snow on this side. And there's snow on this side. It's catching some beautiful light. I want to add in a little bit of blue and red back into the mountain, so that I can go back in with a sharper knife and carve out some of those snow patterns. Take a little smaller evergreen now and just wipe out some of the snow patterns that I'm seeing on the mountain. Might use a paper towel here to wipe out this larger saddle. Make sure it's a clean paper towel. It's just a beautiful scene. It's more beautiful than I'll ever be able to capture, but it sure is fun trying. Some of these deciduous tree trunks are catching some beautiful light. I want to point them back toward the center of interest here. Okay, I think that's enough for the wash. It's really light and warm the way I wanted it. I'm going to put the cap on the turpentine so I can stop breathing the fumes. Alright, I've got the Gamsol out here. I've got a little bit of Gamsol in this cup. And I'll take a larger rosemary evergreen and map in the sky, following that cloud and sky pattern that I created earlier. I'll dip the brush into the Gamsol just right at first so that the paint slides off the brush nicely. Just going to see how this darkest blue looks on the panel. I've got my LED light rigged up to give me some light here in the shade. Hopefully it's not causing too much glare. Yeah, I think that's nice. Could be a touch blue. I'm going to add just a little bit of straight ultramarine. Come right down to near the mountain, but then I think I want to put blue, sky blue over here next to the snow on the mountain, and then cloud white over here next to the rock to give more contrast. Varying my brush strokes. I don't want there to be any ridges, so in general the brush strokes will go up and down, but here and there I'll tilt the brush stroke toward the center of interest. Now I'll paint the shadow of the clouds. I'm not even going to bother to clean my brush because I want a nice soft edge. I can put this right down next to that really blue, that really bright patch of snow. Give it more oomph, more contrast. Got to remember that pine tree is running up in here. I want to keep my paint layers thin so that I can come back over them later if I want to. This initial layer should be thin. You've probably heard of fat over lean. You want to make your initial wash very lean, and then the next layer lean but not quite so lean, and then finally your final layers, your top layers, your impastos thicker. That will help you maintain soft transitions, soft edges until you're ready to add hard edges, but it'll also help preserve your paintings over the long term. If you paint thin over thick, those thin layers on the top can crack later. It's okay to leave panel showing too if you're okay. I like this kind of light, so I'm going to paint real thin over that and leave some of it. I like how it looks. Alright, just a touch of this mountain snow color as well. It's okay if you make a mistake, you can always correct it. In oil painting at least, watercolor is a little harder. Add just a little bit of white. Now these clouds are far down from white. They're probably a value 1 or 2, whereas white would be a value 0. They're pretty far down from that, and that'll help the mountain to glow. It'll make the snow on the mountain really pop. If I can stand to not paint directly, if I can stand to not paint white directly into this, it'll help the overall composition, it'll help the painting to really pop. Soft, nice soft edges almost everywhere. Correct the shape of the mountain here as I go. It's interesting trying to paint from your imagination when you're looking at the scene. I find myself wanting to paint just what I'm seeing. Alright, that's good. Step back and look at it once in a while. It looks pretty good. Alright, now I'll grab a little smaller rosemary, evergreen, and paint in the snow on the mountain. I want to paint that lightest value first, then I can paint into it with the rock. Alright, I'll go with the lightest light first, take some of this yellow, maybe even just add some white, and paint in this bright, bright saddle. paint thin, I can let the white of the panel help me. Nice snow up on this center of interest peak. A little yellow, so I'm going to add some white. Right now I'll dip into this pinkish snow color to give the impression that the sun is shining from this direction. Everything tilted away from that will be a little darker. All the snow tilted away from that will be a little darker. And I'm just going to shift things a little warm, a little cool to add interest. Suggest some shadows, some form shadows and cast shadows. I actually want to paint some of the rock coloring just to check how it's going to line up. Alright, I want to remember part of what I'm doing here is to play with brushstroke texture. So I want to make sure that I'm following the fall line of the mountain with my brushstrokes. Try to put a brushstroke down and leave it alone. And again, the rock faces facing the sun are going to be brighter and warmer, and the rock faces tilted away toward the sky will be lighter and cooler, and then cast shadows and deep form shadows can shift warm and cool just based on what I'm seeing. Yeah, I think those rock colors are going to work. I'm going to leave some gaps for snow. A beautiful warm rock passage. Right over in here. Going up into this cloud. Mirror that. A little bit up on the main peak as well. Kind of hinting by painting into this cloud that the mountain goes on up. Not too worried about preserving all the lines for the snow. I can paint those back in later, especially after it dries a little bit. Thinking mainly about the fall lines of the mountain, trying to capture those. warm and cool puzzle pieces. I take this large badger hair brush and just soften some of the edges. Just want to take the ridges down. I don't want to blend. So if I take a couple swipes and then wipe it off with my paper towel, it helps. Step back and see what it needs. It's a little more oomph. Right up here, suggesting that the mountain goes up into the clouds. There's more variety in this shadow here. Alright, stepping back, that's pretty close. I need to come back in and lighten this saddle and also the snow on the peaks. But I want to wait until the paint is set up a little bit more, or else it'll just continue to make mud. Alright, I took my knife and scraped down the lightest area a little bit and then added some white back in. Just wanted to see what it looks like, and that's going to work, but I don't want to overdo that now. I'm actually going to take this clean, soft-haired brush and knock this down just a little bit. It's got some ridges in it now. I can do more of that later in the studio, especially around the center of interest. I'm going to move into the foreground. I'm going to use a larger, soft badger hair brush and paint the pine trees, and then I'll use a little smaller, also a long badger hair brush for the deciduous trees. I'm going to keep it pretty rough. I don't want the focus, I don't want there to be a lot of fiddly detail in the foreground. I want that to kind of just sink away and keep the interest on the mountain. What I'm going to do is actually take my knife and paint in the trunks of the foreground trees first. Reestablish where things go. Again, I want random spacing on these trees. I don't want any kind of recognizable pattern. Alright, this is a number 4 long flat rosemary masters. The badger hair brush, really beautiful brush for painting trees. So looking at the tree, I'm trying to capture the gesture for this long limbed pine. It's really dark against the sky, really beautiful, and these little tiny branches near the top, they're kind of tilting up. They don't have much droop at all. And now as the branches go further down, they get a little lighter in color, a little more orange, and they droop a little bit before twisting back up. And they're not even. The branches seem to be bigger, heavier on the south side, which is this side over here. I want some soft edges, I want some sharp edges. There's one really dark, beautiful branch really sticking out far. Get rid of some of that paint. I have too much on my brush. You gotta have some confidence to paint back over what you spent so much time on earlier. You just gotta go for it and know that if you screw it up, you can probably scrape it down and fix it later. There's a little different type tree that has a little bluer, so I'm going to dip into this. Little bluer color branch, and it's more, the branches toward the top jut up more. Where the painting ended up. I'm pretty happy with it. I think the warmth is too much. I think it's too warm up here toward the top. I'm going to cool that off a bit when I get home, maybe darken it a little bit as well. But it does recede, and I do get that feeling of looking up at the mountain. This is all very rough. I'm not sure it's working for me. I think the pine trees are working, but I'm not sure the deciduous trees are detailed enough. I may need to add a little detail to one or two of those deciduous trees, like firm up the trunk and firm up the branches a bit to get them to read. But I don't want to do too much, because from a distance the painting does read as you're looking up at the mountain, not really dwelling too much on this foreground scrubby brush. I do like the way the paint is modeled without being thick and gloopy. There's definitely a feeling. You can feel the sculpture of the mountain with the brush strokes. I need to practice that more, play with it more. Just a beautiful day here. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for coming along. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit my website. I sell these little plein air pieces at a reasonable price because I consider them practice. It really makes me happy when someone likes my art enough that they want to hang it in their home. You can also sign up for my newsletter and stay up to date on my new work and shows and get a discount. on original art and prints.